Accidents happen. One of the things about science is that failure in science is defined probably pretty differently from the way most of us think of failure. You might think that, well, an experiment doesn't work or doesn't work out the way you think it is, then that's a failed experiment. But scientists don't look at it that way. It's not a failure. If you have designed your experiment well, you get information that you can learn something from, even if it's not what you expected. It teaches you that maybe you're asking the wrong question to begin with, or that your question needs to be changed in some way. We're talking a little bit about this with the scientific method. If the experiment doesn't give you the results you wanted, then your hypothesis might be incorrect or need to be changed. So we just go back and we learn and we try again. And there have been plenty of important discoveries from unexpected results. We're going to talk about a few of those as we go through, especially some of the history of our ideas of what atoms are like. Some of those things have come from experiments that gave completely unexpected results, which means we have to change our idea of what atoms are because the experiments and the results that we get don't fit the existing model at the time. And so we have to keep evolving our ideas. And sometimes these things happen literally completely by accident. Chemicals get mixed in the wrong way, or things get spilled and combined and they weren't supposed to be combined, but they end up creating something that is useful, or something that doesn't work out for its original application gets another life in some other application. We're going to talk about some of those, or you'll see some of those on the list that you're going to get at the end of this assignment. One example that I'm going to give you that most of you have probably heard of is penicillin. Whether or not you know the story about penicillin and how it sort of came into being as a medicine, you've probably heard of penicillin. Okay, penicillin in general is actually a whole class of medications. In antibiotics, they're called. This was the first class of antibiotic medicines. There's lots more now. And they're important because this was the first time that doctors and scientists were able to actually treat certain diseases that before you couldn't stop because of the way they worked. But penicillin and antibiotics fought these diseases in ways that hadn't been possible before. And while there were certain researchers who studied this type of reaction prior to 1928, including back in the 1800s, late 1800s, Alexander Fleming is given the credit for establishing penicillin as a medicine that we have kind of come to know today. But the thing is, the discovery of penicillin by Fleming was an accident. Something happened in his lab that he wasn't expecting. He had a petri dish, which if you don't know what that is, it's just a little glass dish where scientists grow different things like bacteria and fungus and that sort of thing. He had a petri dish of something called Staphylococcus. If you've ever heard of staph infection, Staphylococcus is the long name for what you have when you get a staph infection. And he had left this petri dish with some Staphylococcus growing in it, which he meant to grow it. He left it uncovered and open in his lab one night. And when he came back in the morning, the petri dish was covered in this green mold, which obviously wasn't what he wanted because it killed the Staphylococcus that he was trying to study. But he recognized that there was this area around the mold where no Staphylococcus was growing anymore. It had actually killed the Staphylococcus. And he realized that there might be a way to extract something from this mold that could then be used to fight and kill Staphylococcus in people. And he isolated the compounds from this mold, which was developed into penicillin and other antibiotics in this class and have since led to a lot of other antibiotic medicines that we still use today. But again, this was completely by accident. But he knew that there was something useful to be gained. So your assignment here is to go back to the iTunes U post where you got this link from. There's two more links that you're going to click through. You're going to go to the link first for a list of accidental discoveries through history. One of them is going to be penicillin. You can't use that because I've already given you the background on that. But you're going to pick one of the other discoveries from that list, and then you're going to go back, do a little bit of research on it, find out what it was about, how it was discovered, who discovered it, and when. And then you're going to go back to the post, and click on the third link, which will take you to a submission page where you can enter your paragraph. You're going to write a paragraph description. There's more details in the link, but that's how you're going to get your assignment to me. You might want to type it up in another program like Word or Pages or Google Docs and then paste it in, but ultimately you're going to submit it through this form and submit it to me electronically.